final program for this particular season. Final show on Channel 31 for the moment. More on that later. But also our final program on YouTube live and hopefully Facebook Live as well. If you were watching earlier in the night on Facebook, on the In Pit Lane Facebook page, you would have seen a bonus track from our musical guest tonight, City of Union. And he'll be joining us a little bit later on. Yes, he will be joining us a little bit later on in the program with some more music as well. But what a weekend of motorsport internationally with Australians winning, not just Dan Ricciardo and Will Power, but let's not forget young Tasmanian Alex Peroni as well, also won on the streets of Monaco as well. We'll be finding out a bit more about that. Jack Brennan is joining me tonight on the program. We're just going to wrap up what was a really busy weekend. Also, if we get time, we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island. But look, it's a tight show. Let's not waste any more time at all. Let's find out what happened on a big weekend in international motorsport. This is the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. A stunning weekend for Daniel Ricciardo on the streets of Monaco. The Western Australian was fastest in every practice session before a blistering lap to take pole on Saturday. Ricciardo led all the way on Sunday despite a major engine problem that left his Red Bull 25% down on power. But Danny Ric kept his head and, driving with only 6 gears, held on to get some redemption for his 2016 Monaco disappointment. Second place went to Sebastian Vettel, who closed the gap to his main championship rival, Lewis Hamilton, in the title chase. Vettel ran an incident-free race, but was forced to admit later that despite Ricciardo's mechanical problems, the Aussie was in a class of his own at Monaco on the weekend. As predicted, Mercedes struggled somewhat on the tight confines of the Principality, with the car's significant power advantage counting for little on the tight and twisty street circuit. A third place to Lewis Hamilton and a fifth to Valtteri Bottas was about the best result the team could have hoped for. Mercedes will be a good deal more happy when the teams make the long trip across the Atlantic for the Canadian Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Later that day,
back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see
the greatest spectacle in all of auto racing, the Indianapolis 500, and the most famous words in motorsport, outside of, "I'm sorry, but I just don't have the money right now,"
drivers, start your engines,
gave the signal for Thor to wave his mighty hammer, or in this case a green flag, to send the field away. Sadly for last year's winner Takuma Sato and Melbourne driver James Davison, their race was over early. Davison suffered a mechanical failure, causing him to slow suddenly, leaving Sato with nowhere else to go.
We had an issue with the rear anti-roll bar jamming on, and it was just our worst nightmare, unfortunately. And did my best to be sensible in not spinning the car myself and staying out of everybody's way. But then a situation like that, when you're staying out of their way, can go bad to worse. Obviously, you then get up in the marbles, you then drop even more speed, and surely enough, poor Taku just had nowhere to go, and I really feel for him and his team getting caught up in that.
Pole sitter Ed Carpenter led the restart, but it wasn't long before another crash as Ed Jones hit the wall. Danica Patrick's race and IndyCar career came to an abrupt end when she spun at turn 2 and hit the wall. The action got hot in pit lane for Zach Veach and his crew, but despite the flames and the heat and the very real potential to burn to death, everyone was remarkably sanguine about it all, as Veach just calmly drove away from the conflagration. Sebastian Bourdais was the next of the big names to leave the race early after he hit the safer barrier in turn 4. Will Power was now in the lead, but then the curse of the big names continued as Elio Castroneves hit the wall. Once again, all the safety gear did its job and Elio walked away unscathed. Sage Karam also hit the wall, but it was little wonder with such close racing happening back in the field. Remember folks, these guys are travelling at over 360 kilometres per hour. Tony Kanaan was the next big name to hit the wall, once again without injury. Stefan Wilson took the lead from Jack Harvey and Will Power, as Power's wife Liz nervously looked on. But when both Wilson and Harvey had to pit for fuel, Power regained the lead, holding on to become the first Australian to win the famous race. As Power celebrated, his wife showed the sheer relief and raw emotion of the day as her husband finally took out the most important single event of his career.
Man, I just can't believe it. I changed my attitude a lot after Barber. Very positive, had a great month. I just can't believe it. I got to thank Roger Penske, Verizon, and my parents for allowing me to get to this point. This is just, I can't describe it. I feel like collapsing. I want to cry. Oh my God. I couldn't stop screaming on the radio. I can't believe it.
It was a big weekend for Aussies abroad as Danny Ricciardo wasn't the only Aussie to taste the champagne at Monaco. Tasmanian driver Alex Peroni led all the way to win the prestigious Formula Renault race around the famous street circuit. Fresh from a win on the streets of Po, Peroni showed his comfort with the tight street circuit to lead all the way over Charles Malesi. Peroni's fellow Australian Thomas Maxwell finished 8th. Malesi reversed the situation on Sunday, however, taking the win from Peroni with Maxwell in 10th. There were no Australians racing in the World 600, the latest round of the NASCAR series. But if there had have been, we'd have won that too, damn it! The race signified pretty much the current state of NASCAR racing, with Kyle Busch totally dominating, winning all 3 stages and the race itself. The biggest on-track incident occurred on lap 121 after Denny Hamlin tapped Jimmy Johnson, who then took out Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney suffered a spectacular engine blow-up, but outside of that, there was little for the fans to get excited about. Unless, of course, you're a Kyle Busch fan. Yes, you're watching In Pit Lane on Channel 31, YouTube Live, and possibly not on Facebook Live, but we'll find out more about that later. But we're going to take a break right now for all of you on Channel 31, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that big weekend of motorsport with our guest. Our friend Jack Brennan is joining us again. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Okay, so if you're watching us on YouTube, we're having some problems on Facebook. So, so if you're watching us on YouTube at the moment, you're in a very exclusive club. Now, I want to take this opportunity. This is our final show, as I said, in the studio for at least the next 13 weeks. We're taking a break over the winter. Hopefully we'll be back on in September, but more on that later. But the only reason that we're here at all is because of the support that we've received this particular series from the Australian Sports Sedan Association, Victoria, and all the guys from Sports Sedans have been fantastic. They got in and they got us back on the air again. We wouldn't be here without them. And coming up in a couple of weeks' time at Winton Motor Raceway is round 3 of the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. We will have highlights and reports from that particular meeting, because even though the live show is going off the air, we're hoping to have something live or something on air on the YouTube channel at least every week in the over the winter break. So the main thing to do is make sure you subscribe to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel and make sure you click on notifications. That's really important now. YouTube have changed all of the algorithms and everything. So even if you subscribe now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be informed when we have new product. So the best way of doing that is both subscribing, but also clicking on the notifications signal down at the bottom. It's a little bell icon that you'll see there. Just click on that, and then every time we put something new up, you will be informed that it's there waiting for you when you hook up to YouTube again. But as I said, it'll be great up at Winton. A big meeting up there. It was a while that we didn't actually race at the Victorian State Series at all up at Winton, so we're back up there now, and we'll be taking you up there in a couple of weeks' time. But if you can, head up there. It'll be a great weekend. All the categories from the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship will be there as well. Also, congratulations to Thomas Randall, a recent guest on In Pit Lane, who won Wakefield Park on the weekend in the National Sports Sedan Series. Thomas had a fantastic couple of races with Tony Ricciardo, and that's available on YouTube as well. If you go to Blendline TV, I believe that they've got a coverage up there of that particular race as well. So congratulations to Thomas and all of the Victorians who took part in the National Series up at Wakefield Park. But once again, from all of us here at RMI TV, from all of the crew and everyone here at In Pit Lane, but especially from me, thank you to the Australian Sports Sedan Association for their support of the program. And if you want to find out more about sports sedans, joining the club, which is a great thing to do, and also find out more about the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship, you just go to www.sportsedans.com.au. I'm hearing myself again. The strange audio bug has come back. Hopefully it's not too much of a problem for you at home. But we're going to welcome our friends back from Channel 31 in a moment. So when they're ready in the control room, Peter, if you can count us back in.
5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane here on Channel 31. And as we said, a huge weekend in local motorsport. And joining me to talk about, the big events over the weekend, someone who we introduced you to earlier in the year. He filled in for me while I took a break. It's Jack Brennan. And Jack, did you manage to go through, did you do the whole sort of, the whole endurance event, or did you just stick with, Monaco and come back with Indy 500 later?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Yes, I did just stick to Monaco, and because of the new times that they've pushed it back an hour from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, the race. Down here, I was falling asleep towards the end, so I woke up in the morning and found that Charles Leclerc had a crash, and I didn't actually remember seeing that crash, but I remember seeing the end of the race, so I don't know what happened there. But yeah, I didn't make it to the Indy 500.
See, when I have that sort of thing, that's what we call a seniors moment. But you're a bit, it's a bit precocious to be having senior moment at your age.
It's not like it happened at 7 o'clock in the night. It's not like I was just nosing off on the couch. It was like 11, 12 o'clock at night, so it was quite late.
Yeah, it is a problem that we've got that they've pushed it back just too far at the moment, which is an absolute pain in whatever. But great performance by Daniel Ricciardo, as we said in the report, 25% down on power. But yeah, he deserved to win. No doubt about the fact that Daniel deserved to win, and we're absolutely thrilled for him. But it does say something about that particular circuit. Let's face it, if it had been any other circuit on the Grand Prix calendar, not only would he probably not have won, he would have been lucky to have finished in the top 6.
Yeah, and the thing with that is you're right, not even any track on the Grand Prix circuit, pretty much any track in the world. And I think it's sort of showing as well the why we should be analysing what we actually have on the track. Yeah, Monaco's special, and yeah, it's obviously very cool to drive around, and it's difficult, and it pushes the drivers to the limits, but it doesn't produce that good racing, Normally I can stay up to the end of a race, but I was falling asleep, and I'm an Australian now supporting Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, I think that also was very clear in that Formula Renault race we watched. Alex Peroni started from pole. He won on Saturday. Then they have a system where they reverse the rows. Malesi started from pole on Sunday. He won, and somebody pointed out that in the history of the entire history of the Formula Renault race at Monaco, everybody who started from pole has won.
Yeah, it just shows, qualifying is key in Monaco, and Daniel Ricciardo absolutely nailed that, and he nailed it when his teammate fell over. And if you ever thought that we'd be doing 1 minute 10s around Monaco, when you think 30 years ago, Senna was 12 seconds a lap slower in the best pole lap ever. That
was the most extraordinary figure at all, to know that, Senna's lap was a full 12 seconds. We're not talking about a couple of seconds over 12 years. Yeah, you can sort of say that, that obviously, they're going to get a little bit faster over the time, but to be a full 12 seconds faster than that lap of Senna years ago just shows you how much the technology's changed.
Yeah, and the track's a little bit shorter up near Rascath, just that little bit to make it easy for the cars to get around. But yeah, I think it's that lap that Daniel Ricciardo did has got to be one of the best qualifying laps ever, up there with that Senna lap.
If there was any doubt at all as to how good Daniel is about, and I don't think there is, but for some reason, there's a lot of people in Europe just seem to sort of doubt him. You see online, every time he's won, he's been lucky. It's like, it's only because Max crashed. It's only because, Max had problems, he wasn't fast and all that. How many times does a guy have to actually win races and beat his teammate for people over there to realise that, he is one of the elite?
Well, I think that sort of happened in his earlier wins. Like, you look at his first 2 or 3 wins for Red Bull, he won those basically out of luck. Mercedes failed and he was there to capitalise. And he had Sebastian Vettel as his teammate when that happened. But I think now you look at it and go, these last 2 victories in particular, they have been class acts. He has won those off his own back, off his own merit with the fastest car. He's been the best. And I think that shows that he's a quality driver and he should be in a quality car, whether it's the Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, or even McLaren or Renault.
It's interesting. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is now saying, amongst others, I think he might be right, that he's expecting him to stay at Red Bull, and I'm starting to come across to that idea as well.
I think the difficult thing for him is Max. Like, how long is Max going to be there? Because Daniel Kvyat got dropped for 2 mistakes. How many has Max had? He's had 6 this year, let alone the amount that he's had at Red Bull over the years, whether it's pushing Raikkonen off the track or crashing into...
That's something that a lot of people haven't taken into account, the fact that, like everyone's saying, well, where is Daniel going to go? But they have signed another deal with, but as we know, contracts, really aren't worth the paper they're written on. So, that's not beyond the realm of possibility. If he makes too many of these mistakes and he keeps making them on a consistent basis, there's plenty of talent in the Red Bull talent pool that they might just sort of, say, oh, well, okay, Max, it might be better if you go back to Toro Rosso for a while and, we'll bring someone else through.
Well, that might be the best thing. Like, they could bring Carlos Sainz back from Renault. They've got Pierre Gasly, who's doing an awesome job down at Toro Rosso with the Honda. So that might be the best thing for Max. And I don't think he'll react very well to that. And
it mightn't be a bad idea to have a driver with experience with the Honda engine, should they decide to ditch the Renault and actually take up the Honda, which is looking increasingly likely.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not going to get Fernando Alonso to drive that Honda engine?
No, I don't think so. I don't think either of them want that at the moment. Look, stay there. We're going to wrap up the year. We haven't even got on to Will Power yet. We've sort of run out of time already. But we're going to take a break now on Channel 31. And when we come back, more with Jack Brennan. We'll wrap up the year and also wrap up the series. And also joining us, our musical act for tonight, City of Union. You're watching In Pit Lane. We'll be back in just a moment. Okay, well, as we said, if you were watching Facebook earlier tonight, I don't think we're up on Facebook. Facebook is very temperamental. I keep sort of dragging people over to say, watch the YouTube channel. The reason we use YouTube and that we promote the YouTube channel very strongly is because it's a lot more reliable than Facebook. Facebook does tend to do strange things, and it's doing some strange things tonight. So I don't know, if you're watching on Facebook, hello. If you're watching on YouTube, call all your friends who have Facebook and say, if you want to watch it, turn over to YouTube. But anyway, good luck to you. Now, as I said earlier in the night, if you were watching on Facebook, though, we did have a special Facebook Live, a bonus sort of, edition of In Pit Lane, a third song from our guest tonight, City of Union. Matthew Campbell is performing, and you'll be able to see him a little bit later. We'll give you all of his details a bit later on in the program. But right now, let's check out Matthew Campbell, City of Union, and this is his song, Good Morning, City of Union.
Good morning, my darling. I hate that I'm leaving. I wish I was staying so long. And I wrote you in letters, and I told you I was better, but now I'm sinking so long. Go where you wanna go, I will not take it slow. If I hope, I hope, I hope you brush your hand on mine. I tell you that's just fine. I won't go, I go, I go. Good morning, my darling. I hate that I'm leaving, and I wish I was staying so long. And I wrote you in letters, and I told you I was better, but now I'm sinking so low. I feel you coming on, so I wrote another song to say I can't stay long. That's why I had you there. You stand in your underwear. I know I'm wrong, but I'm wrong. Good morning, my darling. I hate that I'm leaving. I wish I was staying so long. And I wrote you in letters. I told you I was better, but now I'm sinking so low. The shore keeps calling my name. There's no way that I can explain, but my mind is 8 miles away. I will see you soon if you want to trouble me, and I can see that you know me. Can't you see that my heart bleeds? There's far better things, there's far better things, the surest way. And I can see that you know me. Can't you see that my heart bleeds? There's far better things, there's far better things, there's far better things.
I was just saying that what we're going to do is we're going to fade to black and then we're going to fade up again so I can cut in for Channel 31. So now, a fade to black. And we fade up again. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another segment, the last segment for this season on In Pit Lane on Channel 31. Now, coming up, for those of you who are unaware, Channel 31 is scheduled to go off the air at the end of next month, or probably the end of this month if you're watching us on Friday. Now, we do believe that there might be some good news on that front, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. But remember, we do have an election coming up fairly soon, and if you're one of those people who really loves watching Channel 31, not just this program, but all of the shows on Channel 31, it would be a really, really good time to get the details, the contact details, the email address, the fax number if people still use faxes, whatever. Post whatever, or your details of your local member, and let them know that you like Channel 31, you watch Channel 31, and you would like Channel 31 to stay on the air. Because as much as we know that things are happening more and more online, there's lots of people who just really, really like their Channel 31 and want the old-fashioned sort of television experience. And as we've seen tonight with our problems with Facebook Live, online isn't necessarily 100% ready for prime time yet. Speaking of ready for prime time, the Indianapolis 500, they call it the greatest race in the world. I'd probably my vote would be for Le Mans with that, but it is an amazing event, and Will Power has finally won it.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. The Americans really know how to do sport well. Like everything, no matter what the sport is, it's just exciting to watch, and they manage to do it with fireworks and confetti and milk. What a weird tradition that is.
Yeah, I think the other thing about, when you say about the professionalism, I put online recently and upset a few local people, and I think this is a contrast with what's happening this weekend down at Phillip Island, which we'll briefly talk about. But the professionalism that I deal every week with NASCAR, with IndyCar, with the NHRA in the United States, and the level of professionalism compared with what we see, even at supercars in Australia, is on another planet. Things aren't even close here.
Well, they realise that that's how they need to grow. That's how they're going to grow their sport, you know. NASCAR, 30 years ago, it was just in the south of America. Now it's grown massively. Marcus Ambrose has really helped them grow out here. And it's just awesome to see them spread it out.
That was the frustrating thing about Calder Park and the Thunder. He would, whatever you say about Bob, the fact was it was probably a matter of timing. He was probably 10, 15 years too early.
And we were there with SAE, and I saw that, and that's probably the first time that I've really been there and properly had a look around. And I imagine 20 years ago when it was thundering and under the lights and 800 horsepower cars going around, it would have been awesome.
It was a great, the whole summer, it's hard to believe when you go out there now, but the whole summer at Calder Park, you would have 1 week, you would have the super speedway, the NASCARs there, and then a couple of weeks break and drag racing right throughout the summer, and both meetings would get massive crowds.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that there's nothing that they can really do to restore the Thunderdome, because there's a big dip where the tunnel is that goes underneath, so there's nothing they can really do to save it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately the Thunderdome, drag racing, hopefully we can get back there on already see drag racing out there on a regular basis, but I think the Thunderdome and possibly even circuit racing is gone and is dead and buried as well. We did mention coming up this week at Phillip Island is the Phillip Island 500, latest round of the Australian GT Championship. It's an endurance race. A great entry list. Lots of really great cars and lots of top drivers. A lot of the V8 supercar stars are going to be there on the weekend. Really haven't heard too much about it. Have you heard there's been any publicity at all that you've heard about this? Because this is a really good meeting.
I've probably only heard a lot about it from drivers, not even big drivers like Garth Tander. I've heard about it from small drivers that we've had on this show that I've
tiny drivers, little tiny drivers. Yeah,
we
put them in a charm bracelet, wear them around your neck.
With not as big presence as Garth Tander or whatever. So that's where I've found out about it. But it's a shame because Phillip Island is probably the best facility in the country, I'd argue.
Great for these particular cars too. The GT3 cars look fabulous at Phillip. There's also the Australian Formula 4 Championship. I think we've got Porsches down there as well. Radicals are down there. Going to be a really big meeting this weekend down at Phillip Island. So if you're looking for something to do and you're in Melbourne and looking for a trip down, head down to Phillip Island and check out the Shannon's Nationals. Listen, we've run out of time on Channel 31, unfortunately. But look, thanks for all your work over the last few weeks, the 13 weeks, and particularly for filling in that time. And hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again later on in the year.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've clocked up a lot of frequent flyer points in the last 13 weeks.
Yes. Jack flies in everywhere. He actually lives up in Queensland. Flies down. He's very dedicated. He's very dedicated and extremely wealthy. Girls, if you're looking for he is a fabulous catch. The man
have girls
is loaded. No, probably not. Yeah, yes, of course we have girls. We do have girls watching. Now, coming up, as I said, we will still be on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. We're going to try to get something up every single week over the break. We might have a week off next week, but we will have stuff coming to you from Phillip Island, from Winton and the Grunt Performance Victorian Sports Sedan Championship. And also lots of some special features on both cars and drivers right there. And hopefully we will be back on air on Channel 31 and on YouTube and Facebook Live from the studios of RMI TV Student Television here in Grand Prix City, Melbourne, starting in September. We've got the Sandown 500 and the historics, all sorts of things. Thank you once again to our sponsors, the Australian Sports Sedan Association. A huge thank you to our crew. We could not do this. I could not do this without this crew. They have just given up their time, their effort every week. Nobody gets paid for this. Thank you very much to all of our RMI TV crew. They are just spectacular. If you'd like to get involved in this, rmitv.org. There's a link on the In Pit Lane website as well. But to take us out tonight, you heard him a little bit, well, some of you heard him a little bit earlier in the night. It's City of Union, Matthew Campbell, and he's going to be performing this Monday, if you'd like to see him live, at Baxter's Lot in Fitzroy. It's in Brunswick Street, Fitzroy. He's got on YouTube as well. He's got his song Look, but right now that's his new music video. But he's going to take us out right now from this series of In Pit Lane. So until hopefully we see you again in September, this is City of Union and Hoondog. Good night.
digging what you're doing. I don't know you, I'm pursuing. You're older, and I'm just guessing. 'Cause it's groovy, the way that you're dressing. 'Cause you are my home dog. You're crazy, you know, in a cool way. When you're lazy, I bring you Kool-Aid. I'm fighting to get your attention. Can I be invited to the cool convention? 'Cause you are my home dog. I see you off from a distance. I wanna be you, it's on my wish list. That man bun, that sweet little updo. You got other bunk, I wish I had to. 'Cause you are no, my home dog. You help me move into my new place. Oh, 'cause I just moved over from the United States. You drove off, I waved and I said thanks. Yeah, that was the day, no. That was the day, oh. That was the day we became mates. My home dog.
What's happened is something that we did in the previous thing